Hello, it's Bryce here, fresh from another bout of digging around in the Squiz Kids archives. The episode we've dusted off this weekend is a special one. It's the Squiz Kids shortcut to Eddie Mabo and land rights, because this week we celebrate a special day. This Wednesday will be Mabo Day, to celebrate a man called Eddie Mabo. But it's really what he achieved that is being commemorated this week. Eddie was an Indigenous man from a tiny island in the Torres Strait who single-handedly took on the Australian government and overturned the idea that before white settlers arrived in Australia, the land belonged to no one. It's a great story of how one person, no matter how small, can make a huge difference. And it will hopefully inspire all of you who listen to it. Enjoy.
It started more than 60,000 years ago when the first Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples walked this land. It was taken away during colonisation when Captain Cook claimed that the land belonged to no one. Then along came Eddie Mabo and everything changed. This is your Squiz Kids shortcut to Eddie Koiki Mabo and native title. The podcast where we dive into the who, what, where, when, why and how of the big news stories. I'm Christie Kijurina.
And I'm Bryce Corbett.
Hey Bryce, if you found out that the land that your family had lived on for generations didn't legally belong to you, what do you think you'd do?
Wow. Well, I'd be shocked, confused, and I'd definitely be angry. And maybe, just maybe, I'd do what Eddie Mabo did and take that fight all the way to the High Court of Australia.
It's Reconciliation Week, and it always ends on June 3, the anniversary of what is known as the Mabo decision.
So today, we're exploring who Eddie Mabo was, what made his case so groundbreaking, and why it still matters today. So, grab your judge's wig and your gavel, and let's get started.
And listen carefully, there's a quiz at the end. Who? So Bryce, Eddie Koiki Mabo was a Torres Strait Islander man born in 1936 on Mer Island, that is also known as Murray Island. Now, it's part of the Torres Strait Islands between the tip of Queensland and Papua New Guinea, and it's a small tropical island paradise with a strong sense of community and deep traditions.
And he didn't grow up with his parents, right?
Oh, that's right. Sadly, his mother died shortly after he was born, and he was adopted by his uncle and his aunt, in keeping with the Islander tradition. So, from a young age, he was taught traditional law and stories, especially by his grandfather, learning who owned what land and why land was central to identity and to culture.
So, land ownership was personal and passed down through families, even though that wasn't recognised by Australian law.
Exactly. Then Eddie moved to mainland Australia as a young man, working in Queensland and eventually settling in Townsville. Now, he became a gardener at James Cook University, but he was really passionate about education and about politics, and that's where something happened that changed everything.
Oh, I know this bit. One day at lunch, Eddie was talking about his land at home to some academics in the history department. They mentioned to Eddie that under Australian law, he didn't actually own the land that he thought belonged to his family on Murray Island. He was stunned.
Yeah, he must have been shocked. It's kind of unbelievable.
Isn't it? So, Christie, what did Eddie Mabo do?
What? Eddie started asking questions, big questions, about fairness, truth, and how a country could ignore the land rights of its first peoples. He was actually already active in Indigenous rights, and he actually campaigned in the 1967 referendum.
That was the one where Australians voted to include Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in the census.
That's the one. And then in 1981, Eddie gave a speech at a land rights conference at the university. It was all about land inheritance, that's passing it on through generations, on Mer Island. A lawyer in the audience heard him and thought he has a case.
Aha!
And so, in 1982, Eddie and 4 other Merian people launched a case in the High Court of Australia.
And that, of course, is the famous Mabo case. The Meriam people were trying to prove that their families had owned and passed down land on Mer Island long before the British arrived, and that the idea of terra nullius, which is an ancient Latin term meaning land belonging to no one, was wrong.
That's right. In 1770, Captain Cook had claimed the east coast of Australia for Britain, using an ancient Latin term, terra nullius, meaning that the land belonged to no one and therefore new arrivals could just claim it as their own.
But hang on, Captain Cook saw Aboriginal people here when his ship landed at Botany Bay. I mean, he knew the land wasn't empty.
Exactly. But the British called Indigenous people uncivilised, so they could just claim the land for the Crown. It was convenient for them, but it was false. Eddie's case aimed to change that.
And the case took 10 years, is that right?
Oh, such a long time. It went through all sorts of delays, arguments, setbacks, but Eddie never gave up.
Good on him.
However, sadly, he died in January of 1992, just months before the court made its decision.
So, Christie, what actually happened on June the 3rd of 1992, and why is it still so important today?
Why? On June 3, 1992, the High Court ruled in favour of Eddie Mabo and the Meriam people. They said that terra nullius was wrong, that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples had rights to the land before, during and after colonisation.
And of course that represented a massive shift, and one of the judges even called terra nullius, and I quote, the darkest aspect of our nation's history.
The ruling led to something called the Native Title Act in 1993. It's a law that allows traditional owners to have their land rights officially recognised. It was a win for truth and for justice.
But not everyone was happy, were they, Christie?
Oh, that's right. Some mining companies and farmers were worried about losing land or access to the land. So there were debates and more court cases to figure things out. Things like how land could be shared, things like fishing rights, and the protection of sacred and culturally important spaces. That work is still happening today.
And what about Eddie's family?
Well, his wife Benita continued to share his story, and their 10 children have carried on his legacy. Yep. You might have even heard of his great nephew, Olympian and NBA star Paddy Mills.
No way!
Mm-hmm.
And every year on Mabo Day, June 3, we remember the man who stood up, spoke out, and changed Australia for the better.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. What is the name of the island that Eddie Mabo came from? Yeah, well done if you said Mer Island, or I'll also accept Murray Island.
Question number 2. What ancient Latin term did Captain Cook use to falsely describe Australia as uninhabited? Well, this was a tricky one. It is terra nullius, meaning land belonging to no one. Well done if you got that one.
How good is your Latin, Christie? Question number 3. On which date do we remember Eddie Mabo and his legacy? And I'll give you a hint. Have a look at the calendar today. Yep, that's right. It's June 3.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us as we explored the who, what, where, when, why and how of Eddie Koiki Mabo and native title.
Now get out there and have yourselves a most excellent day.
Over and out.